Welcome to the SWIKE podcast, the only podcast that shares the stuff you didn't know you needed to know about jobs, careers, and life. The SWIKE podcast, the stuff I wish I knew earlier.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to the SWIKE Stuff I Wish I Knew Earlier podcast. We're here with one of our guest mentors, Frank Abbruzzese, and hopefully I didn't totally butcher the last name, but he comes to us in a background as a CEO of a tech company with a background in business. But I'll let him introduce himself a little bit more. So tell us, Frank, a little bit about what you're doing now, and then we'll get back into the backstory and find out a little bit more of what you were like as a kid.
Sure. Thanks so much. Pleasure being here. Frank Abbruzzese. What I'm doing now is looking at three main priorities. I'm focusing on my health, which took me a long time to get to over the years, as number one. And of course, my family. Had the lovely Carmela and two wonderful daughters, 21 and 23. And I guess the paying job I do have today that I love and enjoy is CEO and president of AlphaCore, a tech innovative company here in Windsor, Essex County. And I love to volunteer. I'm sitting on some boards and just embracing and enjoying every single day.
That's amazing. So I'd love to go back in time and ask a little bit about what was Frank like as a kid? So what were some of the earliest, fondest childhood memories? What were you like growing up? And then how do we get from there to where you are now? And we'll slowly go through the story.
So as a kid, I grew up on a farm in a small town outside of Windsor in Leamington. Actually used to be home of tomato capital of Canada for H.J. Heinz Company came here in 1909.
Okay.
Where today we're big on agricultural greenhouse, and so there's the world has really changed in that small town. But growing up on a farm was a lot of fun. I was 5 years old when we moved to the family farm. And my dad grabbed two shovels and gave one to me and one to my 4-year-old brother and said, boys, we got to dig 900 holes for the peach trees. And we haven't looked back and stopped working ever since. So my childhood was going to school. I worked at our local ethnic club, Italian club, from 11 years old. So I graduated from university. And I also had a summer job every summer on top of the farm. And we slipped on our bicycles and rode out to Point Pelee whenever we could steal away a little puck at a time. But the fun part about growing up was the roadside stand. We sold a lot of fruits and vegetables. And, you know, we're going back into the 70s and 80s where a lot of people were going to and from the beaches and the cottages, and we had a lot of Americans. So we got to really learn how to communicate and interact with people. So that was a lot of fun as a kid, not realizing all those years what an effect it was going to make in my career in terms of communication and taking care of people.
And growing up, were you more of like a shy kid or kind of a rough and tumble? Sounds like there's a lot of activity there, the bicycling and all that sort of stuff. Were you like a bookie smart kid? Were you reading a lot, or what were some of the characteristics of Frank back then?
You hit it right at the beginning. Extremely shy. I didn't exist on any radar. Actually, my upbringing was kind of like shampoo: school, work, sleep, repeat.
Gotcha.
Didn't do any other activities. Didn't play any sports. Didn't join any clubs. Was not social. Ironically, my grade 12 high school reunion, three people came up to me and knew my entire life story. And on the way back home, I said to my wife, goes, wow, you're really popular in high school and everybody knew you. And I go, those people didn't even talk to me. They only know me because of social media. Right. Very interesting.
So how things come back when you become successful later in life, then people all of a sudden remember you? Is that kind of what happens, or?
Yeah, I don't know if they really remember the upbringing part, but they do remember of me. And, you know, it's a unique last name, so that's kind of neat. Mm. And it was a lot of fun growing up like that. But it was basically just stick to the basics and always do the right thing. And Dad always taught us to keep our nose clean, keep our mouth closed, and never argue with the boss or the manager, and always do what you're told. So that's how we were brought up.
So talk to us a little bit about some of the influences growing up. So eventually, well, after grade 12, you have to do something else. So was the aspiration always to go to college, university? Was there a path paved for you, or were you always expected to take over the farm afterwards? Or what was kind of that decision-making process like?
One path was to always take over the farm. I have two younger brothers and an older sister. All four of us decided not to go down that path.
Okay.
The other three didn't do much after grade 12 in terms of school. They all went to work. We grew up Heinz being a factory, a union. That was the dream and the aspiration of the family. I always felt something different out there. So I decided to go to university, get a business degree, and do something totally different than what my path was set out for me when I was young. And I really fell in love with business because in grade 11, I discovered bookkeeping. That was one of my favorite classes in high school, and I really loved numbers. And so in university with the business degree, I got to play into stats and which is called managed science. Calculus I actually enjoyed second time around in the university level. Marketing, management, and they really excited me a lot. So I wanted to become an accountant. That was my first real main aspiration in university as a career path.
Yeah, would you mind going to kind of the decision-making process, or more the conversation with the parents to say, well, I hope that someone takes over the farm, like, and I guess you're the eldest boy, so
Yeah.
what was that conversation like?
Well, from day one, I always told my parents that at 18, I would no longer work on the farm.
Okay, so you already knew ahead of time.
During those summers, I would during the lunch hour, I would go home, load our peaches on the pickup truck, deliver them to the shipper receiver. I'd be home at 5, load up the truck again, bring them back to the shipper receiver. Just so you know, in Leamington, all our peaches had to be in by 6 p.m. And they're on the transport truck. So on the 401 and into Quebec, and they're on the shelves grocery store the next morning in Montreal. So it was pretty cool to be part of that and to realize that 10 hours away, our hard effort today is going to be sitting on the shelves in the morning and going into people's homes. That was kind of neat. But to answer your question, the farm is never in my cup of tea.
Okay. And was that like just a parent conversation? You know what, mom and dad, not for me, and they were pretty supportive about the whole process and said, you know what, here's another path for you off to university.
I don't know if they were supportive because we never had deep conversations as a family growing up. A lot of it was understood and expected. But I think about 4 years into my career, my dad pulled me aside and said, you made a huge mistake in your life. You really should have gone to work on the factory like your brothers. Look at all the money they're making. Look at how well they're doing. He started talking. We never really talked about money. And I just looked at my dad and said, I surpassed my brothers a long time ago. And, we're taught to be humble, work hard. And he was just surprised. And, we had that good conversation. And from there, he always just accepted, didn't understand what I did, but just accepted the hard work, the perseverance that we did. And the worlds are totally different. So our family dinners, we didn't really talk shop a whole lot.
Right.
I always supported them. I supported their factory environment, their union environment. And I've always tried to be the good brother and good son and just be very open-minded. But I really didn't talk about my world very much. They just honestly, in that point in time, they really didn't understand it growing up. So I just let it be. And it was okay. What I want to share with the audience is it's okay not to have the family and friends fully support you and understand. And they might be naysayer, and that's okay. It's nice when they do support you, which they have eventually. But it's not necessary for you to go on your path. And, if you set out and explain it, they will eventually support you.
That sounds good. So if you can walk us through the journey of, well, now you're at the University of Windsor, you're enjoying your time there, you're learning business. Are you finding that this is like what I signed up for, this is what I want to do? And then eventually you end up landing a role in sales from what I understand. Was that easy? Was that hard? Or what was the transition like from school to the working world?
Well, university was, same thing. A lot of work, a lot of studying, a lot of memorization for multiple choice tests. We tried to go out when we could, our leisure time, plus I worked every weekend and all the summers. So, I still kept that, and the family farm was still there, right?
Sure,
So I
yeah.
kept all that balanced in terms of going to school and working and doing that. Graduating, though, was interesting because my first job in my career was retail sales in computers, selling computers to mom and dads that buying their first computer for their children. And I had to, stand up in a retail setting in Windsor and talk to people, which I was extremely quiet and shy. But I realized something really quickly, that the questions were the same. The people were the same as the ones we took care of growing up at the roadside stand or at the supply place that I was at. And people just need help. They ask questions, and they have to like and trust you. And I learned a long time ago that if I can just always tell them the truth and say, listen, I really don't know, and find out the answer and get back to them, I found that really set me on a good path from day one. So I was able to go from that quiet, shy person to, hey, I'm really here to help. And I did a nurturing with, again, it was a lot of parents coming in, and nobody knew much about IT and technology and computers, and there was no internet. So and there was no cell phones. I know a lot of you are finding that really hard to believe, but we had TV and radio and newspaper, right? So again, we had to get our information a longer, hard process than we do instant gratification today. So I found just listening, asking questions, and really caring about the people and making them feel good. And I just want to share, I started back in '88, I've been 33 years. And it takes me the same amount of time to sell to that couple buying at that time, let's say it was a $3,000 home computer, as it does most of the sales that we do today. It's kind of like a 45-minute process in terms of getting to know someone, asking them questions, and making them feel really comfortable. Obviously, some other conversations are going to be longer today and some of the complexity of the conversations we're having, but in a nutshell, it's same amount of time. It's very interesting how that has evolved.
And did you ever have like any formal sales training or experience, or was it really just, let me listen, let me care, let me understand the problems, and then keep going and tweak and I guess your shampoo, rinse and repeat type of thing, or were there kind of like helpful tips that helped you grow on your sales role along the way?
A few things. I read a lot. So I read all of our local print magazines, our trade publications in our industry at the time. So I read them all. On the sales specifically, I was really lucky. I started with a large corporation, Epson Canada, that had the retail store in Windsor. They provided a wealth of training that we would go down to Toronto. And, I was just in Toronto on Friday, and it's just interesting when you're a lot younger, is you're get in the car, and I'd be downtown at the Toronto Convention Center for an 8:30 all-day event, and then come home and go to work the very next day and not even feel it, right? You're on the road at 4 a.m. But Epson, I was very blessed. They did a lot of investment in their staff, in the training. And I became a manager 3 months into it here in Windsor. And then I got myself promoted to run the Mississauga store, which was a whole world of experience. And the training was tremendous. The second company, when I moved back to Windsor, there were some training that we did in sales. Learned, cold calling, telemarketing. Did Dr. Karras, the Sandler, so we did effective negotiating. Like there was a lot of different things. And at Elfcore as well, we took a lot of different training. I always feel that you can never have enough, and it's up to you if you want to excel. And sometimes you have to seek it on your own. There's a lot of virtual courses today that you can choose from. It's just your discipline, investing your time and energy and focusing on it. And lately, I've done cybersecurity fundamental certification at this level, and it's still a lot of fun. I don't do as much training as before, but it's still a lot of fun when you get involved and learn new things. Kind of exciting.
So it sounds like that you're a bit of a lifelong learner, where you're constantly trying to improve and get better, whether it's a formal course or books or what have you. Was there anything from a sales perspective that this really helped? Where again, that stuff I wish I knew earlier, for those that are looking to get into that, like these core principles are really, because there's a whole bunch of tactics and things like that for people to use, but and any kind of core principles that really resonated with you?
Well, You triggered on something with the script and the telemarketing. I found out everyone was following it and we became robotic. So I
Mm,
decided that let's learn and look from it. But I have a personality, so I decided to create my own script and not actually follow it. You know, just like here, I have 5 pieces of paper with answers on them, and I try not to glance at them. Where it's kind of like my security blankie, if you will,
nice.
right? My safety net. And I just found that training is really good for sales, but the process has to be real. It has to be genuine. I always point here, it has to be passionate.
Right.
And you know, we've taken some really good programs. We have followed them. I've seen sales reps and other people out there that follow the script to a T, and it's not genuine. And I think a thing that I had found when I came to join Alpha Core, I was overwhelmed because, you know, 7 years of experience, having been doing a lot of different things, including managing a pretty hectic store. And then all of a sudden I'm coming back and starting right where I started, 100% commission sales guy walking into this small company. I realized that the genuineness that I brought, when I was overwhelmed, it was refreshing and I couldn't understand it. I had no idea what people were saying, what they were telling me. And I realized that all that sales, all that experience, I took little pieces of each and built my own method, which was, hi, I really care about you. Can you let me know what's going on? And really dive into what are their concerns? What do they need to know? And following up with it was something that really set apart. So anyone that wants to do sales, like I was in Mississauga in a city that I knew absolutely nobody in retail getting referrals. Epson Canada, we had 35 stores in the country. They had no idea how I was able to get the level of referrals. And I realized when I took care of people and I loaded the computers in their vehicles and we had small conversation in the parking lot, they started referring their family and their friends and their neighbors and their coworkers. And these are all people I didn't even know. And it was just exciting to teach my staff that, you know, this is what we should be doing. And they looked at me and said, no, no, no. We're here to sell the computers and they can pick them up themselves. And I
Right.
thought, no, no. So as a manager in Mississauga, while I was there, I loaded every single computer in customers' cars.
That's amazing. That sounds like a great lesson where, I mean, a lot of people think of sales as that transaction, right? Someone's trying to just take my money, right?
Yeah.
But if you treat it as really a relationship that you're building, then it becomes those referrals that you talk about. It's really the development of that relationship. And then it starts to pay dividends over time because that one transaction, that one act of loading a printer or whatever, a computer into someone's car can really turn the tides and have more people go specifically to Frank versus anybody else at the location as well. Talk to us a little bit about that transition to AlphaCore. So now you're joining them. You said you're joining them on the sales side, but now you're the president. So there must have been a very interesting journey along that way. So how does one get from there if they want to start from kind of the ground floor and go all the way to the top? What would that process look like?
So when I came on board, we set some 2-year projections, and my 3 business partners are very technical, and they are by far the best and have built a phenomenal technical team here. And for me, I couldn't get in trouble if I wanted to. Whatever I did, whatever I said, they delivered. They had my back, and they brought it. So if there's a billboard and you see that sizzling steak and you want to go to the restaurant and they sold me on the sizzle, these guys delivered that steak every single time. It wasn't like I showed up and I was disappointed. So it's a combination of the two. I was able to learn a lot about a lot. I was able to enter this market space with these 3 gentlemen. And after 8 months, you know, we seriously sat down and they said, we wanted you to be a partner at the beginning. You didn't want to. And now we would like you to reconsider. So that's what we did. We incorporated. We became corporation, and the 4 of us have never looked back, and it's been 26 years. The key there is one relationship at a time, one conversation at a time, and it's caring and taking care of people. Out of the gate, what we did is we offered 24/7 support and service. We did no contracts. If you contacted us, and at the time it was mainly phone call or faxing, if you called us, we would respond and we would take care of you. And the contract thing was very interesting because in the early days, the people that had heard about what we were starting to do, they had support contracts elsewhere. They would call Alpha Core. We would respond, go on site, get them up and running. Many times, the contracted vendor would still be calling them back, and we used to write it on the whiteboard that the saying was, Alpha Core's already been here and took care of us, moved the business to them, and it was just you know an exciting thing to share and to thrive on, and to watch all these companies join our company and have us take care of them. It was very overwhelming, and I learned that the four of us really cared. We really wanted to help. It was nothing else about anything. It was, let's take care of you. No questions asked. We'll come out 24/7, and whether you dealt with us or not, we just took care of you. That's all we wanted to do, was get people up and running and take care of their business. And it evolved from there, and we started building some pretty cool processes, and of course some platforms, investment in people, and then here we are 55 people later, right? So it's been an exciting ride for us.
That's awesome. So tell us a little bit about that decision making. So you initially said that they wanted you as a partner, and then you didn't want to join. And then how did they convince you, or what was that thought process in terms of saying, you know what, there's something there that I want to be a part of? What was going on in your head at that time?
Well, when they approached me, you got to remember in the technical background, right? In terms of where we come from and who we are, what I really loved about the culture was the honesty of it. Just the blatant openness, the honesty. We're really good at taking care of people, and I was given full autonomy as a sales rep here. I was always treated like a partner from day one, and it felt good. We felt really good that we got along. So of course, we got the accountants and lawyers, got all the paperwork inked, wrote the checks, and incorporated, and moved on. Until this day, the four of us get along extremely well. Pre-COVID, we made sure that we still spent every Friday together. We would meet formally Fridays, and we'd head out for lunch. And it was neat in the culture where, especially newer employees, would come in and go, I've never seen like no door slamming and no yelling in any company I ever worked at. And my gosh, the four owners go for lunch every Friday together. Like we leave in my car and we come back together. And you don't realize the culture, the influence in your actions, how much it affects everyone, and helping with morale, and helping everyone with the culture and being happy and motivated. So we've had formal staff meetings monthly, and during COVID, we decided to do them weekly virtual. So it's Friday at 4:30 to reach out to the whole team before everyone's isolated for the weekend. So we've really tried to do some things as a partnership in terms of communication and full transparency, which I think has been well received. That's what I really liked from the beginning.
So it sounds like that it was really like the culture of the partnership. Well, the folks that ultimately became your partners, and then it kind of continue on with the communication, transparency, ongoing. So those initial days, there were four of you, you said, and then how did it grow from 4 to 55? Or what was that process? Because I've heard entrepreneurial journeys where, like, when you hit like 10 or 20 or something, there's a bit of a kind of a plateau that hits. What were some of those key milestones and challenges and growing pains that you had, if you're willing to share?
Well, there's 12 or 15 people, and you will always form a second tribe. It's just the laws of the universe, for lack of better terminology. So we looked at different areas of the company. So we have administration. So there's that area that's being handled almost like a department, right? Then there's the software development. We have some awesome developers here with the web development and custom software. And then we also have the technical, which has been the larger one, and of course, sales. So each owner got to manage a different area of the company and build their team while bringing the synergies together and collaborating. I think that's the key. Had you had one person do it, it is challenging. You need to have other leaders in the corporation. So we have 4, and we formed a management team. So we have a couple others. So there's really 6 of us that are at the executive management team that are running the company. So if you look at 6 people, each really managing an average of 10 people. Although the technical department's always been the largest, right, with over 30 in there.
Sure.
And so it's it's a team effort and the partnership, and it's getting together and having that open conversation. What's missing? What do we need? What are we going to do next? Where are we going to go? Y2K is a whole, it's a whole book within itself. When we hit 1999, for the record, Alpha Core started talking about it spring of 97. Nobody had any idea what we're talking about. And then, a lot of people came to us and asked to sign contracts. Everything's going to be fine in December of 99,
Right.
over 2 years ago. The cloud was another conversation that we started early on. So as partners, you have to make a decision on what's coming up, what's the trend. And of course, cybersecurity right now has been a hot topic for quite some time, and
Right.
even more critical during the pandemic. So I think from a entrepreneur, if you have partners or don't have partners, you need to get really good management to be part of your executive. A board of directors, you can reach out and get board of directors from all walks of life that bring something valuable to the table and have quarterly meetings with them.
Mhm.
So I would say, hey, what's the outlook for 2022 when we're, dual dose and the world's opened up? Where does AlphaCore need to be in 2022? And I would ask like 6 professionals from across North America in different sectors as part of my board of directors, if that was the path that I chose. Or the partners and the managers, we sit, the 6 of us, and say, all right, where are we going to be in the next 1 to 3 to 5 years, and have those open conversations.
So it sounds like that you're plugged into the industry, the trends, and saying, well, you're kind of doing that Wayne Gretzky skate to where the puck will be, not where the puck is at the moment, so that you can kind of predict a little bit with things like Y2K and cloud and now cyber. So what are some of the other future aspirations for AlphaCore? Is there more growth, or productizing, or changing business model, or just stay the course and continue to grow?
Well, stay the course is always good and easy, but then, it gets boring real quick. So tomorrow morning is like, I got to do something else. But there's always growth. Growth is not going to stop. It's been 26 years of growth year over year. We're looking at what role can we play in autonomous vehicles, electric vehicles,
Okay.
right? So there's that whole huge sector that's opened up. There's the security is taking us to different places, different opportunities. There's some new builds, some big projects that we're involved in that are huge, that really need that level of expertise that we have. And we're going to continue. What I love being in this region and beyond is when a story breaks and the media is looking for the expert on the subject matter, they do think of AlphaCore, and we're honored and proud of that. But we've also given back to the community. We're sitting on boards, we volunteer, we support fundraisers, drives. Like right now, we're involved in 3 different fundraising events to help clients and other good causes in the community. So I think it's important to push aside just the transaction part of sales, because I like when you said that, because I've never looked at sales as a transaction, and it's never a one time. I draw a circle, and to me, that's the cycle of sales. It just never ends, right?
Yeah, and then that's amazing because, there is some conceptions for the folks that don't like sales, like myself, where it is a transaction. It's almost kind of that sleazy salesperson or whatever. They're trying to con me out of my money, but it shouldn't be like that, and that's something that folks have to overcome. Actually, one of my mentors from a sales perspective, he knew that I didn't like sales, and he said, well, you like solving problems, right? And I'm like, yeah, for sure. You like figuring things out and whatever. And he says, well, think of sales like problem solving with price attached to it, right? It just happens that it's constant. And after that, that really helped me kind of change my mindset, because I do love helping. And it sounds like from your perspective, you're also that relationship builder. So it's not a matter of helping them one time. It's just, let's stay the course. And what about the next time? Because you're almost treating them like kind of that family. And you mentioned about being part of the community. Tell us a little bit more about some of those initiatives. I saw like Build a Dream and some of the child advocacy stuff. Like how do you help in that regard, and how has that helped your business grow and thrive as well?
So giving back to some great causes. I'm currently on several boards. You mentioned the child advocacy. So that was an organization formed probably about 5-6 years ago. I was fortunate to be an advisor the first year, and then just last week, I finished my 3-year term, and due to time conflict, I've volunteered to help as needed. But that organization helps the youth, and it's something that it's unfortunate. it's in the community. It's in every community, and it's being aware of it and helping others. But the gist of that was to be involved in terms of, help the organization from a private sector point of view, because there's the hospital and the police and all the other crisis centers that are involved. So I got to meet a wealth of great people, and the leaders were tremendous. Build a Dream is, in our world, STEM is a big thing: science, technology, engineering, math, to
Right.
encourage females to go in traditionally male-dominated career paths. So that organization has done extremely well. We're now a national organization, and I've been on that board since its inception, when we formed the nonprofit and became a charitable organization. And we're focused on females in high school, grade 11 and 12, when they're starting to think about post-secondary and where do they want to go. And that's been really self-rewarding to be part of something like that. And closer to home, in our tech field, We Tech Network Alliance was formed about a dozen years ago, and it was so cool to be part of another organization right from the ground up. I sat on that board about 10 years and chaired it for 3. Got to sit with a direct competitor, so it was good to really collaborate, push aside your personal company agendas, right, and work together for the better good of the community. And that organization's done extremely well. It's been recognized, so I was very happy to be part of that. One other group that I belong to is I actually have formed 2 networking groups.
Okay.
One with an associate that we ran for about 10 years when we met in person, but when we had to pivot and we went virtual, it just didn't seem to be what we wanted anymore. So we kind of put on the back burner. In January, I decided to form my own group, decided to be bold and do something on my own.
Okay.
And formed Wednesday Wisdom, which is every Wednesday at 11. And you know what? It's been a lot of fun doing that group. Have a lot of great people that come on. People are connecting, so I'm helping people make connections. It all came about in the fall when people were asking, how do we network in this virtual world? So I thought, hey, there's a need there. Let's go out and help. And it's really not an alpha core thing, although in the social media, my marketing's putting it as an alpha core led by myself. But for me, it's truly about helping others. And I'm not really talking about any of the alpha core cool services that we offer. It's about how can you guys connect, and ladies, how can we create opportunities? Somebody hired somebody, personnel, and it's been just exciting to watch it evolve and grow into something organically. And it's actually a couple people have hopped on that I was really surprised that they wanted to be a part of it, and I felt really good about that, and trying to make a difference, especially right now when I think everyone needs some help in some way. All of us do.
So it sounds like it's finding those problem areas and actually doing something about them, right? Because you didn't have to help with kind of the child advocacy stuff or the women in STEM and all that sort of stuff. But you know what, you reached out, or I guess did you reach out, or did people reach out to you and kind of get you to join those boards?
Yeah, a little of both, right?
Mhm.
So again, they seek. It's always tough to get people to join boards, right? Because it's a volunteer and it takes up some time. And then you also want to get the right people, so you kind of make what's a skill set that you're looking for. I've been blessed to be asked to join a number of them. Some I have to decline, unfortunately.
Sure. Yeah, because there are obviously time constraints where you do have your day job, you have your family, you have all these other things to do. But it's amazing for you to identify a problem like something as simple as networking, because a lot of people were losing that connection. So as something as, hey, every Wednesday at 11, we're going to connect and do that. It's as simple as that. So hopefully that inspires other folks to kind of put some of their thoughts and ideas into reality. I'd love, as we start to close off, for you to share a little bit more of your SWIKE, the stuff I wish I knew earlier. So you mentioned a little bit about the naysayers, right? Like don't worry about that, to continue on anyway. What are some of the other ones, if you could go back to and let young Frank, little Frank, know in various milestones, what are some of the things that you wish you could kind of slip him a post-it note or a quick voice memo or whatever, so that he could learn that a little bit quicker when he was going through things?
Couple things. One that I wish I'd have known the early part of my career, it wasn't really about being right or wrong. I know I spent a lot of time clarifying facts and making sure that things were accurate. I had a publisher once tell me when he wrote a story and, I critiqued it 3 times around, he actually says, the story is not about being right and wrong in spelling and grammar. It's more about telling the story. So Seth Godin has a great book, All Marketers Tell Stories. Highly recommend it if you love sales. And one thing I wish that I would have done as a child, some of those days that we took off biking, I wish I would have golfed, because golfing, I think, is still a huge piece of business. And, I tried it for a number of years, but, young Frank should have learned how to golf and been more involved in golf tournaments. But we supported a lot of golf tournaments, head to the dinner and give door prizes, etc. And let's see. Every time there's a challenge, some of us, we think that's it. It's the end. How are we going to get through it? I just wish that I wouldn't have spent so much time and energy on worrying about the challenges of the day, where I would go back and say, hey, we're going to get through this challenge. We're going to be okay. And the good news is there's just going to be more challenges again. And that's part of what we need to do, and how we grow and how we learn. And we hate making mistakes, but we have to learn to learn from the mistake and keep moving forward. So as a perfectionist, it was really hard for me to really learn and understand that one in my career, that I just don't make mistakes. And I don't realize that I have to learn from the mistakes that I do make.
Yeah, I think a lot of those are great words of wisdom. On the one about correcting the facts, I heard from someone who is more about like a relationship counselor, and they said, would you rather be happy or right? Because you can pick one of the two, because sometimes when you have to prove your point about, well, no, this is the accurate thing, then the happiness kind of takes a backseat out there.
Yeah, you're right.
No, go ahead.
I wanted to share one last thing. When you said you don't like sales, or people that want to be in sales, I really want to let everyone in on a secret, where all of us are in sales all the time. You had to sell me to hop on this podcast. I had to sell you that I was worthy to be on the podcast. And we use the word sales loosely, right? I've never liked the word myself. I never liked being a sales rep, but we're always selling, right? I mean, that's just what it is. And we have to get our point across, get people to really understand. And we can have people respect us and not agree with us, and still build that relationship. And to me, that's a very unique quality that I strongly recommend for any of the entrepreneurs. Just because there's disagreement doesn't mean you can't do business together and come up with a happy medium, which I think is really important when you're looking at building these relationships.
Absolutely. Yeah, and then don't take this as anything that I'm against sales or everything. I totally respect people who are in that field, because I definitely don't have a natural proclivity to it. But at the same time, I totally agree with you, where I think in university, in high school, in grade school, they should probably teach some sort of persuasive communication, whatever you want to call it. Doesn't have to be sales, but you're right. Like, well, hey, mom and dad can have a dog, right? Well, that is sales, right? In its kind of purest form, right? And those types of things, where for those that really can kind of adopt that, you'll just be more successful in any walk of life, whether you're technical, whether you're president of a company, or any area. Sales, as you mentioned, we're all doing it in one shape or form. So I think that's amazing guidance and advice. So thanks so much, Frank, for joining us on this podcast. Where can folks reach out to you if they're interested, find out more about AlphaCore or other areas?
Absolutely. So you can reach me at frank@alphacore.com. I'm on Twitter, Frank Abbruzzese. On Facebook, it's not too hard to find. As long as you spell my last name correctly, you'll probably find me easily. alphacore.com is our website. And I blog every Wednesday morning. It's from the president's desk, called Building Circles. And there's some pretty cool business topics in there, and leadership. So it's a lot of fun doing that as well.
Sounds good. And hopefully it's an open invitation to Wednesday Wisdom as well for folks. So we can probably share some links in terms of how to get connected to that. And yeah, we're looking forward to hearing more about you and all the great things that AlphaCore will do in the future. And hopefully there's a lot of golfing in there for you as well.
Those days are gone.
All right. Well, thanks a lot, Frank, for joining us, and hopefully we might have you back for a future episode.
Great. We'd love to. Thanks for having me. Take care.
Thanks, Frank.
Thanks.
Thanks for joining us on the SIWIKE Stuff I Wish I Knew Earlier, the podcast. If you like the podcast, please subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher, or wherever you found this podcast. And if you can give us a review, that would be very appreciated. Feel free to contact me on LinkedIn at Luki Danu, LUKIDANU, and the same on most social media platforms. And I look forward to hearing from you. Thanks. Bye.